Yo, so in this simple tutorial I'm going to show you how to create this super easy and quick setup to getting this nice growing simulation and effect inside of Cinema 4D. Requires no plugins, no specific renderer such as like Octane or Redshift. You don't need any of that. Simple effectors and basically a cloner and a vertex map animation, and you're pretty much there. If we go kind of back into the animation here, let this play through, we can see as the plants are growing, they're having this nice rotation effect coming up, I guess pointing towards the designated light, as well as this nice scaling effect, almost giving the illusion that it's growing on, as well as some nice kind of like turbulence we have in here. And you can also see slightly as they grow, they rotate around, just adding some nice small details, which always kind of gives a nicer end result. And the performance is still there. Obviously when it's simulating, it's going to be a little bit slower, as well as depending on the polygon density of the object you're trying to clone, and your computer specs. But I'm running a 3090 and a Ryzen 9, and I have about 20,000 clones here, and it's performing pretty well. But yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So I've just brought the log into a new scene here, and when doing this, I recommend having a fairly high density mesh. So I got this from Quixel, Quixel Megascans, and I just remeshed it, as Quixel typically doesn't come with too high density meshes. So we want to get a nice smooth vertex map and a nice smooth growing animation. So a higher density object to have that happening on is generally a lot better. And then I've just imported a few kind of leaves and flowers that you can see kind of around here. And I've got multiple, I guess, of different ones that we can choose from and add. So let's go ahead and make this vertex map animation. Now there's multiple ways you can go about this. You can use different kind of grow parameters, but I had a few issues with that, and I honestly got lazy and couldn't be bothered, so I just ended up animating a spherical field. So let's go to select set vertex weight and just put it on 100, so the whole thing is white. Now we want to go to the vertex map tag, go to use fields, delete this freeze. However, you can play with this mode here, grow, in the freeze kind of effector, but I'm actually just going to get a spherical field. Let me get it here, and let's just make this smaller for now. Put it up here, and then go back to the vertex map, basic, and then invert. And pretty much all we're going to do is just animate this spherical field going from this small point to something like this. And now you can see with the high density mesh, we're getting this nice fall off from white to red, red being where the clones are going to be, and white and yellow being where they're not going to be. So kind of from this point to this point is the fall off between those two kind of colors. So let's go to frame 0 and add a keyframe of it kind of not touching at all, no red at all. Let's go actually make it a bit smaller just in case. Go to here, set a keyframe on, let's just say 5. And then let's go to frame 150, and let's just bump this up until pretty much the whole log is covered, something like that. So now we have this nice animation, I guess. After that, we're gonna want to add some, I guess, variation to this, and you can go way deeper into kind of how you want the growing to kind of happen. You can use different effects within the fields tab. You've got a bunch here, you've got a bunch here, all kind of used to, I guess, develop, make more complex growing animations, or just vertex animations in general. But I just added a simple shader field. I believe I added a shader field. Yeah, I added a shader field, and then I changed that to add and shader noise. And I just made this around 30%, and then I just lowered the opacity like a bunch. So we go to here and just put that on, I don't know, like 10, 15, something like that. And that, we get some nice breakups here. Depending on the object you're cloning, just gives a more natural look, I guess, and you can play with this. But I'm just going to keep it simple, give you the basic kind of idea and parameters on how you want to do this. Cool. After that, we want to get a cloner object, clonomograph object, and we're going to want to drag all the objects we want cloned into the cloner. And I can actually just drag this into that null. Cool. So let me just go to here, grid, we want to change it to object, and we want to bring in our scatter, or in this case the log. So let's just bring that in. After that, we want to change the instance mode from instance to multi-instance. Pretty much everything we want to do there, apart from up to count to around 20,000. In my case anyway, it kind of depends on the scale of both the scatter object and I guess whatever you're cloning. Do keep in mind though, this can get pretty intense depending on the polygon density of your cloning mesh. But here, it's not too bad for me. I can still move around pretty smoothly kind of in the viewport. However, when it's animating, it will get a bit slower. Cool, so after that, I'm going to bring in a random mode graph effector. I'm going to go to parameter. I'm just going to turn off position, and if you want to art direct this, then we're going to want to go to cloner effectors, art direct it in real time, I guess. Just bring the random effector into the cloner effectors so it is affected. If I go to position, you can see what happens. It goes crazy. So let's go to rotation, change this to 360, so we get some nice kind of different rotations on these plants, as well as change this to 10 and 10, just so we can get some nice, I guess, leaning more naturally on the actual branch itself. Let's go to scale as well to add some more variation, uniform and absolute, and just change that to 0.2. Super subtle effects, but now we get some here. I guess you can see the difference. Just get some nice variation, these flowers popping out a bit more, making it look a lot more natural. Cool. So with this one, we're actually not going to use the vertex map in the fields operation. We don't need it for this one as it's not being animated. However, let's bring in the next effector, which will be a plane effector. Let's just call this grow. So this is going to be our main effector that is going to be driving that growing animation. Let's just change it to that, and then this is all good. Let's just drag the grow kind of plane effector into the effectors tab in the cloner object, and then again it's gone absolutely nuts. So let's just turn position off. Let's go to scale, and then uniform and absolute, and then just change this to -1. And as you can see, everything's pretty much disappeared. Now when you set the scale to -1, it's basically telling Cinema 4D, let's make all the objects pretty much disappear, and then as that vertex map the red parts of the vertex map come out and animate it, it's gonna come up to its original state, which we set to before. So if I turn this off, it's gonna, throughout the animation, it's gonna go from a size of 0 all the way up to kind of this size here. So let's just go back to that. Make sure this is here, and that's pretty much all there. However, now we're going to go to fields, and this is what's going to drive that growing animation. We're going to drag vertex map into here. Now you can already see the effect that we're having. We're having that growing effect already happening, and we're already that far in so, well, I guess the tutorial, but the effect in general, and that's how easy it really is to kind of get there. However, we want to spice it up a bit, add a bit more variation animation to this. This scale is all well and good, but it's all about the details at the end of the day. So let's bring another plane effector in, and let's call this rotation. Let's go to parameter, turn off position, and I keep forgetting, but go to cloner effectors and add the rotation. Cool. After that, we're going to go to rotation here, so we do not need scale. let's change that to 120 and then 90. Perfect. So basically this is going to add some nice rotation animation as the plants are growing as well. So in that case, if we want it to be animated, just like the grow, we're going to want to use the vertex map again as well. So let's just grab the vertex map and put it into the fields of the rotation. So now it should also have a nice rotation effect as it comes on. Yeah, look at that. So you get a nice spin and you get it kind of folding up as well. Obviously you can play with this however you like. So I can see in this animation here, we've got this kind of going on. We can see how they're kind of all facing in, I guess, an odd direction. And I believe the way to go about this is just to go to here and change the one of the transform values on, I think it's the RP axis. We just want to change that to -90. And you can see the kind of the difference it's had. So like that, see a lot of this kind of grass is pointing in a weird kind of normal, on a weird normal axis, or kind of, I guess, following the surface. We just want to change that to -90, so everything is, I guess, pointing out of its, of the normals, I guess. I think that's how it works. I'm not too sure, but just so it's pointing in the right direction. So we've got some really nice growth in here. Yeah, look at that. Super nice. You know, you can get some really nice macro shots in here, macro or micro shots in there, really nice. So that is pretty much the whole effect there. However, when these are kind of, I guess, born or grown, they just sit there. It's not very nice to, I guess, look at. So we're just going to add some basic turbulence, but not in the way that we usually do. Now, if you want to add some extra realism and, I guess, effect to this, you can bring in a random effector, which I have here, and kind of just put rotation on and add a subtle kind of angle change. I did 20, 20, and 20. Added a basic shader field with a really basic noise, didn't change anything there. Grab the random effector, go to cloner effectors and make sure the wind is in there. And now we should get a really nice kind of subtle wind. Yeah, let me just go back. See how a lot of these plants are just moving very slightly. Now in the final render, it might just be a few pixels, but it just adds a bit more realism to everything. You know, if these have just shot out, they're not going to just instantly sit still. There's going to be a bit of turbulence going on. But yeah, that is pretty much the effect. As I said, this you didn't need any, I guess, additional plugins or renderers to do this. But yeah, other than that, hope you guys learned something and enjoyed. Be sure to subscribe, and you can get the project file of this on my Patreon, and you can see the final render on my Twitter, which will all be linked down below. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed and learned something. I'll see you guys in the next one.